Our front door is such an exciting place. Packages get dropped off, usually containing dog treats. We go in and out for walks, and friends come over. That's why it's so hard to contain all of that excitement at this threshold. But it's an important skill that could save your dog's life. Today, we're gonna go over 3 different ways that you can begin practicing your wait to make sure that you're really building it up to that real world level. We go out and we grab packages, we have conversations with friends, and I might even go out and leave the door open while I unload groceries from the car. All of these 3 different life skills involve different components of the behavior. So in today's video, we're gonna go over how you can keep working on your wait to make sure that it holds up to your real life. If you don't already have a reliable wait on cue, then you'll need to check out the description for a link to starting this behavior. And if you've already got it on cue, you're in the right place. Today, we're gonna work on 3 separate components. The first component is motion through the door. I like to be able to leave the door open in certain circumstances to bring things like groceries in and out of the house. The second piece we're gonna work on is distractions. A lot of times I'm getting food delivered to the house with our groceries, and I need to be able to have that door open with things like food or even people delivering food standing outside the door, and I need my dog to wait. The third component that we're going to look at is duration, because that door is going to be open for a long time while I'm moving in and out with groceries, while I'm picking those groceries up off the ground, and if I have a conversation with someone coming to do some home repairs. So today we're gonna build those 3 components separately and how to build them all up together to make sure that your dog can wait calmly and patiently no matter what the distraction, distance, or duration might be.
After you grab your materials that you will need, like your clicker and treats and a harness and leash for safety, do a few warm-up repetitions at the front door to make sure that your dog knows what you're working on. After a few warm-up repetitions, I begin to add in the component of body motion. I want to start very small so that the dog can be successful. So I open the door part way and just shift my weight back and forth. With each successful repetition, I add just a little more motion, including 1 step, 2 steps, and 3 steps out the door. Remember that we have our leash and harness on our dog for safety right now. Be careful not to put any accidental pressure on that leash, as that could confuse your dog and encourage them to move forward. As your dog gets more advanced and that 4 or 6 foot leash you have no longer cuts it, remember that you can always add a long line onto your dog so that you can keep walking further and further away while still having it be safe for them. You could also add a tether. So if you needed to, take that leash and attach it to a local banister or another door to make sure that if your dog did break that weight, they're not gonna run through that doorway. And if your dog does break that weight and starts to move forward, quickly come back in and reset. No treat for that repetition, and we make the next repetition much easier so that they can be successful with it. The next component we're going to build is distractions. Find something silly and fun from around the house that will interest your dog. We want this distraction to be pretty low value when we start because we don't want it to be too hard for the dogs. The goal is to place the object outside the door and work on your normal weight so that when the door opens, they'll see something outside that will tempt them to want to move forward. By keeping that distraction low value, you're gonna make sure that your dog will be successful. Remember that if your dog breaks the weight, simply close the door and try again. If the dog still can't do it, it's a good indicator that that distraction is too hard for them, and you need to find something that's a little less challenging for them to start. And remember, as one item gets easy, you need to mix it up. Dogs take a little while to generalize, so we want to make sure that each time we practice, we change the item, helping them understand that wait means no forward motion, no matter what kind of silly distraction is outside that door. Wait with distractions is also something that you can practice in real life. So if the mailman drops a box off or you get a grocery delivery placed at your doorstep, go ahead and put your dog on a leash and harness, grab your treats, and practice with that real life moment. Our third component of wait is duration. This is how long the door is open and how long your dog maintains that wait before the door gets closed or they get released through that threshold. So, after a few quick warm-ups, I then begin to add time. I cue wait, open the door, and the door remains open while I count in my head. 1, 2, 3, click, close, and treat. Each time the dog is successful, I can increase by 2 seconds the amount of time that door remains open. Be mindful that you are practicing with a live door, so if you see some distractions start to go by the house, quickly close the door because we only want to focus on one component at a time. I only want to be working on duration, and adding that distraction would make it a little too challenging. Just like in the other components, if the dog messes up, we just close that door and start again, making sure that that next repetition has less duration and less difficulty for the dog. It's up to you to decide, based on your own lifestyle, how much duration of wait you need at the door. For most people, 30 seconds is adequate. Keep building in each individual session until your dog has really mastered each separate component. And once they've reached a level that you feel comfortable with, then it's ready to start combining the different components. Let's take a look. So in this first combination session, I've chosen to combine distractions and human body motion. So I place my distractions outside the door and get my dog set up. It's important to remember that when you start combining two different versions of your wait, that you need to go back to the basics. So even though Lennon can wait with lots of open food containers outside the door and me walking 40 feet away while the door stays open, I go back to the beginning of building the two up from the ground. So I have a low distraction toy and a stuffed dog that he's seen quite a bit, and I go back to adding just shifting of my body motion. By bringing both of the components back down to an easy level and working them up together, I'm setting my dog up for success, making sure that he will be able to do what I'm asking him to do. And just like in all the other ways, we slowly increase that difficulty level as the dog does well. So when you feel pretty comfortable with your dog's difficulty level of each of these three components individually, you'll then start to combine them. Pick two different ones that you are going to combine and bring them down to a very easy and beginner-friendly level. Slowly build them up together in a single session and over several mini sessions until you feel like your dog has mastered it. Then you can pick two different components to start building together. By building the behavior systematically like this, you're making sure that your dog can handle all of the different versions of this behavior that could be thrown at them. So when the time comes, you'll be able to sign for that package with the door open, and your dog will be nice and relaxed on the ground. As you can see in these exercises, I'm doing a lot more reinforcement for staying inside than I am actually releasing my dog outside. I find that this is really important in building up a really strong reinforcement history. The dog is reinforced a lot more for staying inside, which is a more challenging behavior that needs more reinforcement. Exiting the door is easy, and that's what they want to do. So for every 10 or so repetitions of wait, I'll allow one release through the door just to give them what they're looking for and make the exercise fun. Keep in mind that this is a difficult behavior, but it's one that really could save their life. So it's important that you spend the time needed to build this behavior strong so that you have a good foundation to do all of this extra. Make sure that you're not making it too hard, too fast. We always want the dog to be successful and be able to stay in place. So take the time needed to build this skill. If your dog is struggling with impulse control like waiting at the door, I think that you might like this playlist here, designed to help you gain some control back.